And just because you have the big dream doesn't mean you accomplish it all at once. You take it step by step. You can do it all, but you can't do it all at once. And if you want to get there faster and make a bigger impact, you have to learn how to release some control and delegate some of the tasks. We still feel like these obligations and pressures to do everything first or handle it ourselves. And it's just something that we have to.
Dr. Nikia, welcome to the Resilient Entrepreneurs Podcast for women founders who are done with being humble and ready to be heard. Thanks for joining us today.
Yay, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's going to be a great conversation. Let's get right into it. So we're going to start nice and deep. If I were handing you a magic wand today, what change would you like to see in the world?
Yeah, that's a heavy question. But what comes top of mind is that I would like to be able to allow people to become the version of them that they think that they should be. And maybe not should is not the right word because, we have a lot of shoulds, but, the one that they want to be. And sometimes I think I can't be that version. I can't do that. It's too much work. It's too hard. And I would like to just say, yes, you can be that version. I feel like that would help a lot of the worldly issues that we do have today.
What do you think holds women back from that and prevents them from?
Yes, it's a lot of things. I mean, number one, it is a lot of work. And so we are just exhausted, overextended, overbooked. And so, you know, to think, oh, I want to do something so great. We have these really big visions and we have these big dreams, and it's a lot of work. And in this moment, we don't feel like we have the time, energy, or capacity. But I like to remind them that just because you have the big dream doesn't mean you accomplish it all at once. You take it step by step. And so we have to just take these bite-sized steps to get there. But I think that that's part of it. And then other parts are the women's mindset of doing it by themselves and being the strong one and handling everything. And I think we all know that, especially entrepreneurs, they're told, "Oh, I'm a solo business. I'm a solopreneur. I did this all myself." And we know that that's not true. There's no way. I mean, unless you are just not making money, not making impact, and kind of staying in a small space, but you can't get your message out there. You can't be heard. You can't share. You can't scale. And you can't really make the impact that I think most entrepreneurs want to make without assistance, delegation, employees. So I think that women have that a lot. Like, oh, I can just do all of it. And I'm like, no, honey, you can do it all, but you can't do it all at once. And if you want to get there faster and make a bigger impact, you have to learn how to release some control and delegate some of the tasks.
Okay, so I just heard this really great one exactly to this point. That was that men don't feel any way about hiring plumbers or carpenters when they need help. So why do women feel guilty hiring housekeepers, whatever they might need to help them? And I was like, such a absolute moment.
It is. It's very interesting how they move. And another discussion I've had recently was like with a client. She was like, like I just want to like go and work out, but I'm just always have to do this first and fix this first and do the laundry and make sure the dinner's ready. But she's like, my husband, he just goes out, and she's like, and he just goes out without his phone. I was like, imagine how freeing that is. He just goes out for a run without his phone, and she's like, I want to do that, and I'm just like, do it. Why aren't you then? Like, you can just do that. You don't have to do the chores first. You just need to tell him, I'm going out for this hour to run or whatever workout. But it was just like they do it, and then we see that they do it, and we still feel like these obligations and pressures to do everything first or handle it ourselves. And it's just something that we have to shift a little bit in our mindsets.
Yes, 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 yes. I'm a mindset coach too, and I can't help but think when you were talking, and thank you for bringing up this gender difference, because this is a conversation we have a lot on this podcast and in other spaces, because it's not up to others to help women get this right. It's up to each individual woman to help herself to get it right. And when we say get it right, it's this stuff that we're talking about now. It's giving ourselves permission to just do what we say we want to do instead of talking about wanting to do it and then letting everything else get in the way.
Yes. Putting all the other priorities above our own. And that's like a big thing that I talk about. And that's why I said I will always give you permission because I am childless by choice and I don't like to clean my house or cook or go grocery shopping. So like that's just two people and one pup. So like when you have other kids and other stuff, I'm like, you don't, if you don't like to do it, my first thing is always like, well, then why are you doing it? And how can we figure out a way for you to do it less, whether it be hiring somebody or delegating it to someone else in the household? Because this, at that point, you're just wasting an hour of your time, and you're telling me you don't have time to do this dream you have, and this is the time that is going to the wayside.
Yeah, and whose voice is it that's telling you you have to do the dishes and make the beds and all the things? Whose voice is that? It's not your voice. Your voice is saying you want to go and build this amazing dream business that's going to make an impact in the world and leave a legacy.
Yes, I agree. And that's the work that we've done. And I even had to do that own work personally. I was like, listen, I talked to my mom and I was like, where did I get this from? And she was like, I don't know, because I didn't even do that. And I was just like, where did I get it from? I don't know. Like my mom was like, every time I could, I hired a house cleaner. Don't you remember? And I was like, oh, I do remember. But we build like these kind of false narratives and false realities based on what we think we should be doing or what we think people expect from us. And so I'm like, I had to really get real and be like, oh, and she was like, I only cooked half the meals. I didn't do any of the laundry, and I hired a housekeeper whenever I could. And that was what, 30 years ago. So I was like, huh, I don't know where I made that up from. I,
Society, maybe what
yeah,
you see, everything else that
right.
surrounds us.
Movies and books and society's telling you to be this. But yeah, so I was like, I literally talked to my mom and was like, oh, so just letting you guys know, like, if you want to go talk to your mom, like figure out where that voice is coming from or where that expectation came from. Because if you don't want that to be how you live your life, then it doesn't have to be your expectation of your chores, of your role, or whatever you're calling it.
Yeah. Yeah, expectations, they're so heavy, aren't they? We put so many on ourselves, and so much is put on us by society, by family, by choices, like whether we have children or whether we don't, And then from all of that comes the judgment, right? Which is a whole nother side of things. Like that fear of judgment, that voice in the back of your head that you're constantly being judged. It's not easy. It's not easy. Um, yeah, just sort of swimming through this mud. It feels like mud. A lot of times it feels heavy. This is heavy, right? And so many people we talk to in business hit burnout because of a lot of this. I know burnout's something you're personally passionate about helping people with. So let's talk a little bit into that. Like, what is burnout? How do you how do you know you have it? Because maybe some people are there right now and don't even realize it.
I do believe that more people are burnt out than admit it. And I just think that either they just don't know, like you said, because they don't know. And I think that most people are willing to admit that they're tired or they're exhausted or they wake up with like dread or they feel like everything is heavy, that they can move through the day on autopilot and not really be paying attention to what's even happening. They're just getting through it, pushing through, and maybe becoming more annoyed during their day, maybe becoming more irritable during their day. Maybe they are prioritizing rest, but still feeling tired and drained. They're like, I'm sleeping more. Why do I still feel this way? Maybe they are just feeling a little bit more numb than normal. And sometimes people think that, oh, numbness is like depression or cocooning, but sometimes the numbness is you're still going about your day, but the things that you are doing for your joy just aren't bringing you joy anymore. And so
Mhm.
maybe internally you're like, oh, I'm going to go to this, it'll be fun, but when you get there you're kind of just like, I really wish I didn't come, I'm so tired, this is really draining, like these things. And so you're kind of becoming numb to even things that you would like to do in the past. So those are some of this like the more common symptoms that I see. And then in entrepreneurs, I like to tell them, especially, just because you're doing something that you enjoy does not mean that you cannot burn out from it.
Mhm.
And if people will say, well, I love it, I have to just do it because I love this so much. You can burn out on your passions and on your business, on caregiving for your parents or your children. So it's just something to be aware of. And um, like some people may not notice that shift, but others around you may notice that you're becoming more irritable or annoyed or not laughing or joking as much. Or they may ask you, oh, how come you haven't touched your garden or your puzzle? And you're just like, I just feel too tired to do it. Like those are the things that, you should start to think about in your day-to-day life and consider that maybe it is deeper than just being tired or fatigued or exhausted. You might be heading towards burnout.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is so common, and I think it can be masked so well by these other things. And I think when you are, and it's really interesting that you say like you can be burned out from your passion, because I think that's something I haven't heard before, and most people probably wouldn't believe. They'd be like, "Oh, you're burnt out because you're unhappy, or you're doing the wrong thing, or you shouldn't be doing this, so you have to stop what you're doing and change it." So what do you do? What if it is your passion? You know you're within your purpose and you're doing what you love, but you are just in that state of exhaustion. You're not feeling the joy. You're getting through the day, but you're not thriving. You know, you're not living, you're not joyful, you're not happy, but you're just kind of in that space of survival, which I think
Mhm.
that's a common. I think this is common. I think I
Yes,
feel this way. I felt this way in the past. I get it so much. That feeling of just got to make it through this week,
survival.
got to make it to the weekend.
Hmm.
Yeah, survival. And how do we get out of the cycle? How do we make the shift towards a more healthy way of living?
And I think that just listening to these podcasts and just being aware of how it may present, maybe doing more research, because not all presentations are similar, but if any one of those things kind of just felt like you, then you would do some more research. But you can't change anything that you're not aware of. And so if you want to continue to just say, I'm just tired, after I sleep for a weekend or go on a vacation, I'll feel better, you're never going to recover. So once you're kind of aware that I am burnt out, what do I do next? You at least have given words and to this, and you are now like, okay, I know that this has happened, and it is even a passion job or a passion project or a passion business. What's the next step? And it is prioritizing yourself. The cure for burnout is not self-care, although self-care is very important, and I talk about real self-care and not aesthetic self-care. But the cure is, you do need self-care, you do need rest, and rest is deeper than just sleeping. But the real cure is engagement, and that's like tapping back in with yourself and then with your community.
Mm.
And so the things that bring you joy, if you're like, I used to like doing this, I don't like doing this, what feels different? Is it me? Is it that, like, just kind of figuring out and trying to build boundaries around those things. I think we often build inappropriate boundaries because we're told that work is the most important, and so you kind of like want to be successful, you want to do this, you want to provide, and so you build boundaries around protecting that. And as you build boundaries around protecting maybe your business or your job or even your family, you're not building a boundary to protect yourself. And so when you kind of do that, um, that's like really the first step, engaging back with yourself, your joys, your desires, your dreams. Why did you start this business? Do you think that you can really continue this business and scale it and make the impact or outcome that you wanted if you feel like this? How long
Mm.
can you go on feeling like this? Really? I know you keep saying it's just a few more months, a few more years, but like really. And at some point, like you will crash and burn out, like fully, because your body will give up on you. So it's
Mm.
just those questions I like to have people sit with, because I always like compare burnout to a pot of boiling water. You put a big, big pot of water on the stove at low, it takes a long time to boil. But once it starts to boil, it roars faster. And when you turn that heat off, it doesn't stop immediately. So we can identify that it's boiling and turn that heat off and then let it kind of fizzle down. So it's a process. It requires a lot of mindset work, a lot of intention, a lot of deep self care, a lot of incorporating the different types of rest, and especially a lot of community and connection. Sharing your feelings, letting your emotions out, letting yourself be held, seen, and validated and given permission, and not just isolating and pushing through.
I love that. That's the first time I've heard that, that the cure is engagement. I always thought the exact opposite, that the cure was like taking care of oneself and just resting and that's really, really a fascinating perspective. I like that so much because I
Yeah, that personal part is a good start. Like you do have to realize what you want and how you got here and what parts and what choices you made in getting yourself here, and then realize, okay, how do I not do that again? Because I always tell people, just because you burnt out once and caught out of it doesn't mean it won't happen again. So we have to just be really cognizant and aware.
yeah.
This is fascinating, isn't it? I mean, like Laura said, we always hear about self care, self advocacy. These are things that are important, rest, doing things that you love. But what you said was And I'm sure so many of our audience would relate if they've experienced this. Doing the things you love isn't bringing you the joy anymore. So there's something deeper, there's something else going on. And it's so interesting for me to think to look at the path that got you to this place, not in a blame way, but just to as a curiosity, almost a science, to unpack why, how did I get to this place so that I don't go there again. Because what I see with entrepreneurs is they're so excited about their business that they're building, particularly if they're startup mode, but there's this big fear that holds them back because they've had burnout before
Hmm.
and they know what that's like and they're doing whatever it takes to not feel that again, which is absolutely putting the brakes slam dunk on their business growth and doing the things that they really want in this new business.
Right. It's a delicate balance. Yeah. Like it's definitely a delicate balance. That's why I say it's not like you don't just heal from burnout or recover from your exhaustion. You do in that moment, but then you have to, like you said, learn and be cognizant. You might teeter on those like simmers again and be like, oh, I'm starting to simmer. Maybe I should just, put up boundaries or hire a new person or whatever it is to take that pressure off. I mean, hire at home, hire at work, whatever it is you need to do. But once you kind of sit back and reflect and realize how you got here, that's the first way to like not going there again. And I really just want people to go there again because it can be a really repetitive cycle. And as someone who burned out and then recovered and then burnt out again, luckily my second burnout was way less intense and I recovered way more quickly because I could identify it sooner and realize what I needed to do. And so that's just what I'm trying to just get the message because I am very passionate about burnout, especially in women, because I think that it it becomes maybe an idea that is a personal failure, that I wasn't strong enough or I couldn't handle it. And I want all of the women entrepreneurs and not to know
Mm.
that that's not the case. This is a system that was designed not for women, and we're operating in it at levels that weren't expected for us. And so we have to do different things to protect ourselves.
Yes, yes. We have to build different systems for ourselves and for other women around us. I see more and more growth in businesses that are led by women founders that have a female leading team and hire more. And I'm seeing massive growth in these areas and very different systems that they're building with much more flexibility baked in, with much more nuanced understanding of, when somebody needs to go look after a parent or, kids are sick or whatever it might be. There's flexibility built in so that you can protect against exactly this. Because when we do have so much more, right, on our plates, we need our environments to support us holistically.
I agree. And so when I talk coach, especially women physicians, there's like all this research that women, like companies that run by women, women who are physicians have better outcomes than their male counterparts, but women are leaving medicine more quickly because of this stress and this burden. And we get a lot of pushback for trying to have alternative schedules or do this sort of thing. And that's why I just like to share, like, just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it can't be done. And it you may not want to be the one to take that on, but as you kind of push through, you're leaving this legacy for those behind you. You're leading by example because they're like, oh, well, she takes the time off. Now I feel I have permission to take the time off. Or if they become the CEO and they're like, you can take flex schedule, flex leave. Like this is just how we kind of, like you said, change the system. It's like one person and one story at a time. But as you share your story and you inspire others, and collectively we can make these changes. And so I like to say it's not a personal failure, it's just the system. But as the system changes, you can have your say. And hopefully we just keep, I don't want to say pushing through, but we keep striving, which of course we will, and keep making these positive changes for ourselves and those that come behind us.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly why we
Mhm.
created this podcast so we can have these conversations so that people know that there are other people out there trying to do what they're doing too.
I
It's
love that.
so
It's
important.
so important.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It really is key. Tell us how you help people. So what is it that you exactly do and what is about that is important to you?
So I started helping people by hosting wellness retreats. And the wellness retreats were for women physicians of color because that's was who I was and that's exactly what I was experiencing. And so I took us to a space that was beautiful aesthetically and offered self-care services, but we also went a little bit deeper with the community, the connection, and the vulnerability, because this is a space that some of us don't feel comfortable sharing with others, especially maybe entrepreneurs, especially successful entrepreneurs, or I won't say especially successful, but the more successful you appear externally, the harder it might feel to be vulnerable, because the people around you will be like, you're so successful. You have all these things. And you're just like, that doesn't make me any less tired. It doesn't make me any less stressed or overworked. So, they say more money, different problems. So it just wants to create that space for women to share, for them to know that they're not alone, and to give that permission to rest without guilt, to prioritize themselves without like that shame, and to just let go of the stuff that just feels so heavy that we're carrying that's not even ours to carry. And that's just how it started. And now I also do coach women virtually and in person, and just trying to just share this message, because I just really feel it's important for us, for all that we've been through and all that we will do to make the world a better place, to come from that full energy. Like they say, like you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Like you aren't going to be the best version of yourself when you're burnt out or exhausted. Um, or even just functioning from imposter syndrome or perfectionism. Like even if you're not burnt out or exhausted yet, if you're functioning in imposter syndrome and perfectionism, eventually you're going to get there, because that's how you overextend and say yes and do things that aren't really energetically aligned with you. So just sharing the message has become my mission, doing my own personal work and realizing, yes, I am a doctor, but I feel like I'm a healer, and I'm trying to do that work in all the avenues that I can outside of just being a physician.
Mm. Thank you for sharing your journey. I love that you started with retreats and then you discovered that there's another layer. And as you talked about rest, I know radical rest is something that is something you're interested in. Tell us about radical rest, and let's kind of reframe this whole thing about rest, because I feel like as women, especially, we think that we need to earn the rest. We have to do the thing, and then we get to rest. Let's like rest is a reward. What's your view on that?
Yeah, rest is not a reward, it's a birthright. And I agree, like you can do your best work if you are rested, right? So us trying to do all the work and then rest after is like counterintuitive. Oh, like if I do all of this, I will feel productive. I will feel like I have earned this break. And when I sit down, I won't feel guilty. But you've been doing that for years. And when you sit down, you still feel guilty because there's still more work to be done. The work is never done. So like let's just get rid of that myth. There's no done. There's no done, right? And so when we kind of talk through that, like, and I coach, like, how do you feel after you've done all of it? Like, I still feel like there's more. There's always more. So what is next? And so this is just something like you deserve to rest whenever you feel like your body or your mind needs the rest. And then, like I said earlier, there's just the 7 types of rest. Sometimes sleep is not what you need. Sometimes you need creative rest. Sometimes you need to just go out and take a walk in nature and need physical rest. Sometimes you need social rest, which is not actually resting from people, isolating. It's actually just saying, this person always helps me. She makes me laugh, smile, charges me. How can we incorporate more of that? So that's kind of like the radical part of the rest. It's not just sleeping, it's all encompassing, identifying what would be the best for you and starting to just incorporate that daily. And the guilt and the shame don't go away immediately. It just goes away piece by piece. I said, just start with 5 minutes, start with 10 minutes. Like people will also think it's all or nothing. I have to have a whole spa weekend. No, you just need 5 minutes of your phone on D&D. That's all you need.
Yeah, stop putting so much pressure. Like the all or nothing thing, I think is very common. I know I've definitely had that before too. But sometimes you're right. It's in those little moments when you do just take a quick walk or, take some time to just sit with a kid and have a conversation that's when I feel like I do recharge, like actually recharge. Yeah.
Tell us what else is on your heart.
So what matters to me most is really just getting this message out there. I mean, I knew that I was burnt out and I didn't really know how my personal story could help or impact other people in that moment. But at some point, like my niece was like, I can't wait to be like you when I grow up. And I was just like, oh no. No. I'm so tired, like I don't feel that great. And so that was when I kind of just had to realize, like, am I actually living the life that I want to live? Which is why I would grant that to others, because I wasn't. I mean, I theoretically listened to my dream and became the doctor, but I wasn't fully living like the rest of my life how I wanted to live. And that required me to rework how I worked in medicine, to allow myself to become an entrepreneur and not be limited or boxed in because I was already successful or seen in this way. And just fully just listen, to what was on my heart and on my mind, and not just push through with, again, what I was hearing, like, if you just work harder and buy a bigger house and go on more trips, eventually it'll all work out. And I mean, it was fine, but it wasn't great. And I was literally successful but living in survival mode, and it's really a bad feeling, because you feel like I worked so hard to be this successful, I should at least be able to feel good. And so, like, kind of decentering, like, that this level of success will bring the happiness is part of the work that I do.
What did that burnout feel like to you in your body? Like, talk to us about like that feeling when you're in that, like the crux of it, the main, intense part.
My burnout felt like, I mean, it felt heavy. And I know people will say, how do you feel heavy? Every day I woke up, and as soon as my eyes opened, I was already miserable. I was like,
Mm.
I don't want to do this. Like, that daily dread, the Sunday scaries, I had it every day. I literally would wake up a little bit anxious, a little bit over it already. And I required insane amounts of caffeine, and nothing felt like it would wake me up or get me to the point where I needed to get through. And like I mentioned before, moving through on autopilot, just kind of going through and just hoping that could just get through this day and go to bed, and that will just be the end of it. Like, okay, I just got to get through the day, got to get through this next hour, got to get through this. And the big part, like I think I said, was just I was having zero joy. I was doing things that were really enjoyable. And people were like, your life looks great. And I'm like, listen, like, if you go on a week vacation and all you think about is you just can't stand to go back to work, like, it's a problem. Because although you might have those feelings as you come back, like, your entire week shouldn't be shrouded in that fear and anxiety about going back and how it's going to feel. And then, like I think I mentioned before, I was definitely more irritable and annoyed with myself, especially. So people are like, "Oh no, I'm fine," but I'm like, "Are you being hard?" We're all hard on ourselves, but are you being harder on yourself than normal? At one point, I had gone off on my own self inside my own head just because I lost my keys, but then they weren't lost; they were right where I put them. So then I was like, "What is wrong?" Yeah. And normally I would say, like, "What is wrong with you? Get it together," and I would kind of move on from it. But I kept ruminating on it, and I'm like, this is going on for a long time. Why am I ruminating on my keys that weren't really lost? Like, so I just became like noticing these small things. And then one night, like when I kind of hit my tipping point, I had worked a really long shift and I didn't get enough to eat. And I was just in my car, and I just like was like, having that breakdown. I think a lot of women sit in their car, have their decompression moment. So it started off as that, but then it just went into a full-fledged breakdown. And I just literally was crying and screaming and hitting the wheel and just like, how is this my life? Like, how did I get here? I worked so hard and this is not it. I can't keep going on like this. And so that's the part that kind of stuck with me. I was like, I can't keep going on like this. Like, I can't keep going on like this. And so that was the first part, but that's not helping anything, right? I at least I realized I can't keep going on like this, but I'm like, what am I going to do? How do I change this? So I had to just say, like, once I realized I just could not push through anymore, I had to make a change. And that's just kind of when I first started my work about researching and learning about burnout, learning how to recover, doing all the different steps and anything I could find, podcast books, Kristen Neff's Radical Self Compassion. I've read it like 5 times, just going through these steps and trying to figure out, because I knew I couldn't go on like this, but I didn't know how to not go on like this, because this is all I've ever known, all I've ever been told, and all I've ever experienced. And so to change how you work in a system that has been the same way for years is a difficult process. And like I mentioned earlier, although we have these big dreams and big goals, I just took it step by step, and I was like, I will start by saying one thing. The one thing is like I no longer want to take call for 24 hours. That's unreasonable for me. I can't do that. And then every time I did one thing, I'd add another thing. Like, okay, I no longer to work want to work on the weekends. And then it evolved to I no longer want to work full time because I want to spend more time doing my entrepreneurship, showing my story. I feel like this is more of my mission. And so I wanted to devote the time to it. And I always tell people, I didn't get here overnight. This is 4 years in the process. So you just start with that one thing. Like, you want to change something and it might feel big, but I just changed one thing at a time. And I got here and I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy with how I work in medicine now, how I work in my business now. And I'm not going to say like, life is perfect and there's no chance for me to burn out again. But I do feel like over these course of the time and coaching and sharing, I've been able to reiterate those things and keep myself on the straight and narrow when I feel like you might be slipping back into this. So just keep an eye out.
And you look so vibrant. You're happy. You're cheer. It's like I don't know. Maybe people said this to you when you were burning out too, but I don't. I don't think so. It's you have an energy about you that just feels infinite. Because it feels like it's coming from the inside, from a place of self trust, from knowing that if something doesn't feel right going forward, you we will be able to identify it because you've had the experience and you'll be able to do it differently. And so I think that's how we kind of create this learning that prevents the second burnout or the third burnout.
People
Yeah.
ask me a lot, was I okay? And I'm like, I often said, I'm fine, which I think a lot of us love to say, I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm good. It's like, are you really? Or you just, you just say that. And so when people tell me that, I try to be like, are you really? Like, I have the time if you want, if there's anything, if you are, great, I'm happy. I'm really happy if you really feel good. But I knew that I spent 2 years saying I'm good when I wasn't. And so I'm like, are you really? If you want to talk about it, I'm available. But yeah, people would ask me if I was okay. So I probably do feel like I probably did lose some of my energy. And that probably, conveyed to them more than I realized it because I'm just like, I'm fine. They're like, you're not Ewing.
You're not
You're not
yourself.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not the
Yeah. And
Nikia
so
we
after I
know.
came out of it,
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I do feel like I was like a muted version of myself, a more like downplayed version of myself. And I just didn't have the energy or the joy to figure out. I mean, the joy to like push through it, like, oh, I could just push through and put on a happy face. I didn't have that anymore. And then I didn't have the energy at first to even figure out why. And you oftentimes might talk to people, and I like to tell my clients or whoever's listening, if you talk to someone and you express a vulnerable or like an emotion like this, and they tell you that that's just how life is, I don't want you to shut down. I want you to talk to somebody else because that's a roadblock a lot of us say, oh, I tried to tell them at work that this was happening, or I tried to tell my friend and they told me that that's just how it is, or you chose this. And I get that that's might be how they feel, but there's someone out there that's going to be able to listen to you and understand you. And that's why I did the retreats, because it's like, oh, but you chose to be a doctor, so just be on call. Like, I'm like, no, like that's just so that's just a message I want to share. Like, if you hit that obstacle, don't shut down. Keep trying. And when you find the people or person, that's when again you'll get that recharging. You'll be like, finally. And that even just that being like, wow, she gets it, that takes like you from 0 to like 70% just feeling understood.
Yeah, 100%. So exactly finding your, like you mentioned before, community or coaches or a counselor or a therapist or whoever it is you need. And I think we often need all these people in our lives at maybe different stages. But it's great. The more you can surround yourself with people that can hear you and listen to you and you can be vulnerable with, because it's hard. And I do think the more successful you get, the harder it is to be vulnerable. Because when you are, say, like you, a doctor, it's hard to say I'm struggling. And people are like, but you're a doctor. I'm here doing this and you're a doctor. So you know what I mean? They immediately elevate you and think that you couldn't possibly feel the same way or have the same thing. And it's so not true. But often people who do reach a level of success shrink themselves in public and play down anything negative or that's difficult because people already have them elevated to this pedestal, and they go more introverted or less, chatty about it and less willing to be this level of vulnerable. So thank you for being this vulnerable and helping to share this message that we all feel this way. I don't think there's anybody I know that hasn't hit some form of burnout in life. Like, I think it's so common. We don't always recognize it or see it. And sometimes we just truck through it and keep going. But it's understanding, I think, when you have felt it, and I've definitely hit the wall. It's like when you have hit that, like you said, you kind of start to recognize the signs and can help prevent it the next time. So hopefully today we've helped people see the signs, start to recognize it in themselves before they get to the extreme, which could be a physical, could be mental. Like for me, it was a total mental shutdown. I literally could not open my computer and do a thing. I was complete, and I'm a creative, person. So creativity gone. It was like the world went black and white. The color was just gone. Nothing. And I said, okay. And I sat on my couch and I just, took the rest and had to crawl my way out. I wish then I'd known what I know now after having conversations like this, that it was help and engagement and getting the right people around me. I think at the time I did find a therapist and that helped tremendously. But, adding these layers of support to help us to, get through or to get back up or to prevent it completely is where the future
Oh, yes.
is bright for all of us. So we can thrive. I
Yes.
want everyone to
Be
be
thriving.
thriving.
Come on. Yes.
Yeah, come
We got to get out of
on.
that survival mode and thinking that that's just okay and know that thriving is possible for us.
Yeah, it is. It is for everyone. It really is possible. It's not easy. And we're recognizing today it is not easy, and it's not something automatic or something somebody else can do for you. It's something we're all going to do from within and get the support around us. And then we then get to go build amazing businesses and inspire others and hire others and lift them up too. And really, that's where the systematic changes come from doing the work, from being the person, from shining our light, from sharing our, vulnerabilities and helping connect. Because this is the best thing that's come out of this time, is being able to connect around the world. You're in Las Vegas, Vicky's in Australia, I'm in Bermuda, and here we are connected having a deep conversation about, a difficult conversation that we wouldn't have had even a few years
Mm-hmm.
ago. And I think that's absolutely amazing and why I love doing this podcast so much. So I just want to say massive thank you. This is an amazing, amazing conversation. You're the best. Thanks, Dr.
Thank you for doing this and holding the space. This is what we need, and I'm excited to be here.
Amazing. Yeah, you keep holding the space for those that you help too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's important
Yes.
work. Important work you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.